Hello, everybody. It is the Remodelers on the Rise show. It's your host, Kyle Hunt. Episode number, 162 of this. Bailey, look that up. What episode number is this? It is the Remodelers on the Rise show, and today is called Wild Card Day. Wild Card Day. There are times where I have guests. There are times where we're doing some teaching and some coaching and some review of a specific topic. And then there are other days where we go through a variety pack of topics. I get feedback from my listeners, and y'all seem to enjoy it because there's a little something in there for everybody to make you think, to give you some ideas, to push you to try some new things or to focus on something. And I also like these days too, because we hit on a topic, then we move to another topic. I've got my handy little chime audio. And for those of you watching live, if you could just comment, let me know that you are hearing me just fine and dandy. I'm using a little different microphone setup, and also maybe click the like button and hit me with your questions. It's a little bit of ask me anything type thing. All right, first one on the docket. It says the following: how do you lessen your workload? How do you lessen your workload? I have been constantly talking to my clients and remodelers about this. Heather Francis, I see the like. Thank you, ma'am. Constantly talking to my clients about this over the years. But the reason I wrote this one out is I have been thinking about this for myself lately. I am in a mastermind group with 3 other folks. One of them who does something very similar to me as far as coaching goes in the landscaping world. Another one who does coaching and consulting in the restaurant business. And another one who does coaching and consulting for audio and video live event companies. So a little bit of a cross section. They invited me into this about a year and a half ago. I've learned a lot. Sometimes it's good to be the small fish in the pond because you learn a lot. That's kind of how this is. And we had a mastermind meeting last week. We spent the afternoon together, and I said, "Here's a topic." I was thinking about this the other day. I just need less to do. I need less work. I don't think I'm not somebody who works too much. My wife would say, you don't need to work less. If anything, maybe you should work a little bit more, depending on the week. But I'm finding that my morning time, my evening time, I get kind of sucked into wanting to work through my inbox, trying to prep things for the next day, and I just get sucked into work mode. Work definitely expands the amount of time you give it. Anybody relate? Anybody relate? And a couple things that came out of this topic was one of my gentlemen, Matthew, said, I got an idea. Don't work in the evenings. Just don't pull up your email. You're not going to check your email, and you're not going to do that if you just don't work in the evenings. I'm like, well, it's not the most profound comments ever, but it was very profound in and of itself. Just stop doing it. If you work too much, or if you want to stop working in the evenings, here's an idea. Don't. Just stop. So that one struck me quite a bit of going, maybe I just need to think about that. The other thing I think about is when I do work after the kids are in bed, my wife and I are just hanging out, I do find that I'm very low productivity at that time. And when I really step back and look at it, I'm not really getting much done. It would be better if I would do what I want to be doing of just either relaxing or reading a book or studying something else. So I'm thinking about that. And then another idea that came out of this was, hey, why don't you ask Bailey? She's working full time for you. She sees your workload. She understands your inbox, the work you have. Ask her how my workload can be lessened. So like you're supposed to do when you hear a good idea, you actually execute on it. And I reached out to her and I said, think about this, put some brain power behind it, send me back a list. She had a list of 5 or 6 things, and there's some good ones. Some of them were as simple as what I call reduce the noise. That's a good phrase for you if you're listening to this. Reduce the noise. How can you reduce the noise? There are things that I'm copied on, or if somebody fills out this form, I get a copy of it and she does the processing of it. There's really no reason that I need to be having that noise in my inbox and those additional emails. So that's one simple example of that. And then there's some other examples of, Kyle, you would have less work to do if you would just let me run with it instead of feeling like you need to review fill in the blank or fill in the blank before you send it out. I think with a little bit of self-awareness, there's some areas of my business where I probably do micromanage it a little bit too much. And there's other areas that I don't worry about at all. And I let Bailey or Kristen, my assistants, just run with it. So That's the first topic. How do you lessen your workload? Ask the people around you. Think about it. Do you want to lessen your workload? Do you just have too much going on and you need to start thinking about what are responsibilities that are on my shoulders that I need to hand off? So trying to get you thinking about that, giving you some different thoughts related to it. That reduce the noise is something that I talk about a lot. So there you go. Ta-da. All right, next one up. It says, ooh, and I love a comment. I love live questions. That's a lot of fun. So feel free to chime in there if you're watching this live. This next one says, utilizing technology, and it simply says, what are your next steps? This is a wild card day in the Remodelers on the Rise show. Utilizing technology, what are your next steps? So there's a typo there, Bailey. Come on now. Not what are you next steps? What are your next steps? Move quickly, don't rush. There's another phrase to use with your team in the field, etc. Hey, we want to move quickly, but don't rush. Move quickly, don't rush. Okay. So, but about utilizing technology. Wow, over the last year, I'll just go last year. My clients, remodelers community, just our industry in general, I have seen more implementation of technology in the last year than ever before. We are starting to hit our strides. We are starting to not say, well, maybe I'll think about streamlining my project management software. Maybe I'll think about streamlining my estimating. Maybe I'll think about streamlining how our team is tracking their time. Maybe we will start to be more thoughtful with how we're sharing calendars. Maybe I will not be using a physical scheduling tool, but I'm going to move that online. I am just hearing about a lot more of that. Instead of me getting phone calls or texts or randomness at the end of each day, I'm going to have my team actually leave a daily log at the end of every day that I can look at my leisure or leisure, depending on how you pronounce that. So I'm seeing it. It increases efficiency. It increases productivity. When it's implemented well, and it takes a little time to get technology implemented well, you don't look back and you think to yourself, why didn't I do this sooner? So this is just a reminder. I just gave a bunch of little examples that I'm hearing. But when you think about technology, what is your next step? What are your next steps? And identify that and work towards that. That's all. That's all I wanted to say about that. Do you see AI impacting our business? If you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, you can click a little button which allows me to see who's the one that posted that. Do you see AI impacting our business? I learned this years ago. I think it might have been a Gary Vaynerchuk phrase, but I've heard it a few times. And I remember early on in my coaching, especially when I wasn't knowledgeable about a lot of different areas, I felt like when somebody reached out with a question, I owe them an answer. They're reaching out to me. I'm perceived as an expert. I better have an answer. And then over the years, what I realized is stay in your lane of expertise. You want to ask me about financials, markup? You want to ask me about job costs? You want to ask me about marketing, sales process, leadership, etc.? Oh, I got answers for you because I got a depth of knowledge and experience that goes quite deep. So this question, that's what's percolated in my head. My answer to that is yes, and I have no idea what it's going to look like. AI. I'm seeing those. I saw a robot the other day that was painting a wall, and I'm like, that's quick and that's amazing. Carrying some drywall. So those are some big, robotics and that side of things. That's going to be interesting how that goes. And then all the talk over the last month or so is related to this ChatGPT, and other AI related things. So this was on the talking points. So thank you for commenting on that. If you go to openai.com/blog/ChatGPT, or you just Google ChatGPT, you can sign up for it. And all of a sudden you're going to go in there and you're going to say, create a blog post for me for a home remodeler in Brighton, Michigan, related to the importance of job site cleanliness. You'll literally type that at the top of ChatGPT, and then you'll just watch it. It'll start typing, and it'll put 2-3 nice little paragraphs together for you, and then you're going to read it and go, well, that's pretty good. I did this. I've been experimenting with it. I typed in, create a marketing plan for a home remodeling company. Does a nice little intro, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different points, and a little conclusion. And I read it and went, that's good. I would change this. I would tweak that. Bailey sent me, if you know Bailey, Football for Girls. She has her own podcast. Two of her sisters and her do Football for Girls. And she sent me a little chat GPT. She goes, look, I typed this in this morning. Look at what it typed to promote the podcast. Like, that's pretty good. So I think there's a lot related to marketing, related to communication. We're to the point now where it's like, I think here's the thing. I don't know how it's going to impact our business, but go in there and experiment with it. The technology is there to experiment with. One of my teacher friends reached out to me the other day. He goes, Kyle, have you looked at this? Have you looked at AI? Man, it is writing, 10 multiple choice questions related to the Bay of Pigs invasion. Done. It's creating lesson plans for me. It's creating outlines for this. It's pretty amazing. And it's only going to get better. So I think from a communication standpoint, I think from a marketing standpoint, sales literature standpoint, I can see definitely already where that's helpful. You got to be careful. Is Google going to clamp down and say, hey, if you use AI to create content, we're not going to rank it? Perhaps. That's we're in uncharted territory there. But go and check it out and just experiment with it. The real skill is going to be learning how to use it well. How do you ask the right questions to get a better quality of depth? You can take a thing you wrote and say, clean this up and lower it to a 5th grade reading level. And it's just going to be so much more readable. Because when we write content, a lot of us write at a 10th or 11th or 12th grade reading level, and we need it to be more in that 5th or 6th grade in order to be effective and for people to read it well. Good question. And there's a couple thoughts for it. And I'm also kind of staying in my lane because I don't know a ton about it yet. But I'm researching. I'm looking at it. Cool. Let's see. What's the next one here? What's your long-term vision? Totally different topic. What's your long-term vision? Are you wanting to build a showroom? I saw a few people post in Remodelers community over the last few months, and one here in the last week, talking about wanting to create and build out a new showroom. I had a client, Josh Nelson, over in Holland, who just completed I went and saw it a couple weeks ago, a beautiful new office building that he'd been saving for and that had been in the works for years and years, and he finally saw that come to fruition. I have other clients who are thinking through hiring new staff, creating a new position in the business that they haven't had before. And so during this little Remodelers on the Rise show and this little wild card day, I just hit you with that. Have you spent a little time thinking about your long-term vision for your career, if you're an employee listening to this, and certainly as the owner of the business, if you are the owner of the business? Where are you trying to take this thing? How big do you want to make it? How small do you want to make it? Do you want an office? Do you want a showroom? Are you already planning for those things? It takes years sometimes to be patient and save up and plan and wait for the right opportunity. Are you looking at hiring a new staff member? If so, what's the next right thing and the next step to do there? A lot of times when we've reached a certain level of success or maybe a certain amount of revenue or income that your business is giving you, sometimes that can lead to a little bit of complacency. And when we are business owners, we've got to figure out how to keep stoking that fire. How do we keep fired up about the business? How do we keep fired up about where we're going? How do I keep my team seeing a bright future for the business? What is your long-term vision? Sometimes when we have a really compelling, interesting, exciting long-term vision, whatever that means for you, it can really enhance and improve our focus and the work that we're doing in the here and now, and especially when we work in the on the business times. Simple little thing. For me, I decided a few months ago that my ideal business, one of my visions, is my business should allow me to work out 2 times a week during my work week. We got little kids. We got kids running to and from. Life outside of work is quite busy. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? I'm the business owner. Don't I get to decide these things? Don't I get to kind of design this business around what I want it to look like? Hey, isn't that part of this deal? And I have just gone in and scheduled them out. It's Monday mornings and Friday midday is what I've been able to do so far. And it's working out well. It limits the amount of additional meetings I can take during the week. It puts a little bit of guardrails on my week. So that's a little bit of a long-term vision. A long-term vision, I want, taking Fridays off doesn't sound too bad. That's a long-term vision. I think that would be good for me. I think it'd be good for my relationships, whether it's my spouse or even just friends, getting together with friends, buddies for breakfast on Fridays. Sounds amazing. Okay, so think about your long-term vision. And certainly I've been thinking a lot about and continue to pursue, what does this look like long-term? And you should as well. So there's some thoughts for you there. Boy, we've covered workload, we've covered technology, we've covered AI, we've covered long-term vision. I bet you might even have a takeaway so far. As you're hearing ideas, whether it's on my podcast, whether it's content you're reading, other podcasts you're listening to, man, the real key is to identify one thing that you need to work on, that you want to work on, want to pursue, and just really focus on it. So always be looking for those takeaways, always be looking for what you're going to do next. Okay. Speaking of text, I saw that I was getting some text, and I was worried that my new microphone setup wasn't working, so I checked it. But it was my wife who said, want to grab lunch. And I just so happened to, my 1 o'clock meeting today got canceled. So usually when she says that, I go, oh, I'd so love to, but I can't. I just wrote yes. Which, by the way, if you want to have lunch with your spouse or significant other, sometimes it's hard because we're running busy businesses. I got lucky there. Like, that's just a fortunate, it opened up and the stars aligned and it worked. But if you go in and actually schedule it for 2 weeks out, 1 week out, sometimes my wife finds that obnoxious. She's like, oh, you're going to fit me in. Well, once we get past that, that's how we make things happen. Oh, you want to take a Friday off? Go out there in some random Friday in April or May or July or August and put that in your calendar now. You have a goal, long-term vision of taking one Friday off every 2 months? Go and schedule it right now. Oh, you desperately need a vacation? Well, why don't you go in there and schedule it and make it happen? Okay. Anybody having a birthday this week? By golly, Jim, I am. I think I have let's see, about 35 more hours in my 30s. All the things that I wanted to do and accomplish in my 30s, I have to squeeze into the next 35 hours. Because then I'm over the hill. The big 4-0 happening on Friday. Send your cards, send your gifts, I'll accept them. Send your swag. I love swag. All right, next topic. How is your team morale? I had a conversation with a client this morning, and this came up, and I asked them about it, and they're just a little wore out. It's been super cold in Michigan. That was playing a factor in it. So I asked this question just to make you pause. A pause is a gift to the listener, by the way. We need to use it in our communication more. To pause and to consider, how is your team morale? Whether it be your employees, whether it be your trade partners. This is a very important leadership thing that you need to continually keep an eye on. I will also take it personal. How are your kids' morale? How is your spouse's morale? How is your good friend's morale? Do they need a little help? Do they need a little encouragement? Maybe somebody even comes to mind when I brought that up. Maybe there's one person in particular. I got off the phone earlier. There's a gentleman that I'm chasing down, actually, to get some work done around the house. And he's been radio silent the last week and a half. And I'm like, what's up with that? It's not usual. And he's got some major life things going on with a mom who's got dementia and some challenges there. And when I heard about what was going on in his life, it totally changes how I'm viewing him and how I'm talking to him and how I'm communicating with him. When you're noticing something's off with a team member, as a leader up in the business, figure out a way to care for them, figure out a way to help them. Maybe they want to talk, maybe they don't. Certainly the majority of the time, acknowledging it or asking or just sitting down for a cup of coffee or saying, hey, can we catch breakfast? Hey, can we catch lunch? Hey, can you just come in my office for a little bit? Just seem a little down lately. Anything you want to talk about or anything I can help with? That's good leadership. Keep that in mind. Ooh, we got a little happy birthday, Kyle. There we go. Thank you, whoever you are. All right, so we got a little team morale. We got another 10 minutes or so. Let me I'll be done with my live show at 12:30. Meet me here. All right, sorry, I'm just setting up my lunch date. Here's another one. They often mention my Google reviews. I made a piece of content about this a week or so ago. can't remember who it was, one of my clients, it was a blur a little bit. But they said, man, when people reach out to us, this is a Google lead, these are referrals, these are people that found us through social media. It's very often that they mention how great our Google reviews are. Hey, I noticed you had 30 plus Google reviews and everybody seems really happy with you. Your perspective, listen carefully. Your perspective remodeling clients, they do care and notice and pay attention and look at your Google reviews. They do. You want to argue with me? Well, send me a note, send me a private message and say, Kyle, on a future Remodelers on the Rise episode, you, me, toe to toe, you're on the side of you think Google reviews matter. I'm on the side of they don't mean squat. And we will go toe to toe. It's going to be a very viewed podcast. Can't wait to hear one of you do that. But nobody's going to, because they do matter. They do matter. How many Google reviews do you have? You should be able to tell me. If you don't know, go search and find out. Who is going to be your next Google review? Who's going to be the next person that you reach out to? Could be a trade partner. Could be a previous client that never left it for you and said they would. Could be the client that you just wrapped up for. Go and make it easy for them. Give them the direct link. Tell them what you're looking for. If they sent you an email with a glowing piece of feedback, say, you type this over here. Could you copy and paste that and just leave that as a Google review? We would really, really value it. You could reach out to somebody and say, I've got a business coach that's advising me to get more Google reviews, and I'm trying to secure 3 of them in the month of February. Could you help me out? You could text one of your previous clients with only saying, could you do me a favor? Question mark. Don't say anything else. And then you got them hooked. They'll go, sure, what do you need help with? And then you hit them with the Google review. Google reviews matter. Make sure that you are actively doing it, or make sure you are empowering somebody in your team to be in charge of it. Set a goal for it, right? Grab a sheet of paper and write Google reviews and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on it. And your task between now and the end of September, now and the end of August, is to cross off all 10 of those. I'm a big fan of putting things physically in your office that you have to look at. I've got 4 clients. I was on a roll with it early in the year when we were talking about sales goals for the year. I've got the Hampton brothers. You go down in their office. It better be on the walls, by the way, boys, Dave and Paul. They got a sales thermometer on the wall, and they're setting their quarterly sales goal. They're trying to push their sales up this upcoming year, and they're going to have a physical reminder. When they sell something, they color it in. And there's 4 or 5 of my clients that are doing that. There's something about having a physical reminder. You could do that with Google reviews. Oh, the ideas are just flowing, folks. Are you paying attention? Do you have a takeaway yet? I hope so. A lot of you are watching live. A bunch of you are going to be listening to the recording. Grab something. Do something with it. Shoot me an email. Shoot me a private message. Let me know what you're implementing. Let me know what you're doing. That encourages me, by the way. That encourages me. Or you can text me. Sometimes I throw this out there. 517-902-8450. That's actually my cell phone number. But Kyle, why do you put that out there? You got millions of people listening to this, and you're going to get flooded with texts. No, that's not really the case. Hundreds. Sometimes I bet some of these episodes might even get to 1,000. But a lot of you, you're not going to flood me with text messaging. But I would love like 4 of you to do it out of this episode. I just gave you you'll rewind it. You get that number and shoot me a text. Tell me something that you got that was valuable from today's episode or other episodes. My wife hasn't texted me back about lunch. I wonder if she was trying to score some points by inviting me to lunch. But now that I called her on it and said, yeah, let's do it, I wonder if she's like, well, crap. Now we're going to do this? I don't think that's the case. She would love to have lunch with me. Okay. Sharpening sales conversation that I had with a client here recently. Make sure that we are working hard to put a lot of distance between a free estimate on one side, free estimate, ballpark range, and what a detailed design and detailed specifications and a detailed proposal looks like. There are 2 very different things. And sometimes we get a little lazy and we don't really separate them too much. Really work in your salesmanship as you're talking to prospects, as you're selling them on the idea of a professional development agreement, of a design development agreement, that we can offer you a free estimate. We can offer you a ballpark range. based on the project you're describing, based on projects that we've done that are similar in size and scope, your project's going to range anywhere from 2, and sometimes putting a higher number, your project's going to range anywhere from 120,000 to 90,000. By flipping that kind of gets their attention and sounds weird and emphasizes that. Okay. And then, so that's on one side. And then the way that we work, the way that we know that the project is going to happen on time and on budget, the way that we can really deliver a great experience to our clients, a remarkable remodeling experience, one that you're actually going to enjoy and that's not going to be full of stress and worry and anxiety and all of that. The way that we're able to do that is by going through the design and development process of going from free estimate way over here with all kinds of allowances, with all kinds of scope of work details not thought out, with not a design organized so that we know exactly what we're going to do, without the tile layout. Are we going vertical? Are we going horizontal? Are we moving this? Are we moving that? Without any of that figured out, it's a mess. When we get all of the design details figured out, all of the layout details, when we bring in our trades, when we think through all of the details for the installation, when we go through and actually make all of the selections, before a hammer ever hits the job site, we are making all of the selections and getting all those details done. That is the best way to go about remodeling. We do charge for that service, and it is worth every penny times 10. It is going to be what leads to a wonderful experience. So what I just did there is I'm selling that. And I think a lot of you, when you approach that with a prospect, you half-heartedly sell it. You know, going through the PDA process is really helpful for a project. It really helps things. That's not selling. That's not convincing. That's not really winning them to your side of the argument. Paint that picture. Separate those two things. This one over here with those free estimates is not good, folks. You hear all those horror stories, that's the result of that. If somebody is just giving you a bunch of allowances and don't have much detail, heads up and buckle up, it ain't going to be pretty. It's what's going to lead to hard conversations, extra costs, and a lot of headaches. With material shortages and challenges there, if we're not making these material choices and everything up front, we're going to have delays. Things are going to be on back order. We're going to go to order something, and they're going to be out of stock for 4 months. This is how your kitchen sits, half finished, 3/4 finished for months, because we're not doing the remodeling process properly. This is how you properly do it. Win them to your side. I had another example of a client that forwarded me an email. They go, hey, we heard about your design development process. We got your ballpark range. Thank you so much. We're working to get a few more numbers. We're waiting for a couple contractors, da-da-da. And what I said was, here's the opportunity. Sell that difference. Sell that difference. Remind them of the advantages. Remind them and say, hey, be careful. If you've got something that doesn't have much detail, if you don't have anything that has a bunch of allowances and nothing picked out, just tread carefully. Make sure that you're getting the details you need. And the best case scenario out of that example would be for them to not get a timely response from those folks, to not get much detail, and for them to evaluate things and go, yeah, they're right. It makes a lot of sense to go through and properly do this with the design development agreement. And when they reach out to you and say, we're ready, that is a wonderful prospect. That is a very, very, very high close rate as well. So there's some thoughts related to that, my friends. Okay, a couple more, rapid fire, 2 more minutes. What are you doing creatively with your marketing, or are you just being lame? I wrote that. What are you doing creatively with your marketing, or are you just being lame? Get creative. Get in front of the camera. Share something interesting. Take a picture of one of your team members and talk them up and post it. Is there something cool going on one of your job sites? Capture it. Do something fun. Don't be lame. Don't be boring. Try things. Experiment with things. Wonderful. I got a webinar coming up on the 22nd. It's related to a success path of staying in touch with your previous clients. I bet you Bailey's going to put it in the comments and in the show notes. You could sign up for that. It's going to be good. This one says job costing. On the current project that you're doing, can you tell me what your expected gross profit is and so far what your actual is? On that project you just wrapped up 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, can you tell me your expected versus actual gross profit? If you can't, you are not as profitable of a remodeler as you should be. And you are piddling away money. You're not becoming a better estimator because you don't have the actual versus the estimated. There's a bunch of slippage going on. Your project manager is not as good because they don't have a beat on expected versus actual or the number of hours that were expected versus actual. Please, 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 please focus in and work on your job costing. It is one of the biggest bang for the bucks that you have in your business. And I think I'll get back to, oh, and then I'll leave this one. Get back to what was working before. Is there something that was working in your business? I see this too often in my coaching of beautiful, wonderful remodelers, where you had a process, you had a checklist, you had a meeting that was working really well, and then things happened. You got busy, somebody got sick, we got off of rhythm with it, and you look up and, man, we haven't done that in the last 5 projects. We haven't done that in 3 months. Get back to what was working before. Does anything come to mind for that you need to dust off and just recommit to? So often in business, it's not like creating something brand new or installing something brand spanking new or implementing something brand spanking new. A lot of times it's just going back to something that you were doing pretty well and get committed to it and get consistent with it. I am convinced that health, faith, business, relationships, marriage, parenting, so much of it comes down to being consistent, of not getting all hot and bothered and excited about it and doing it really well for a week and then falling away from it. So much of success in life comes down to consistency. I'll leave you with that. And boy, is that something I need to work on in my life too. Consistency. Lovely. All right, folks. Remodelers on the Rise show complete. Enjoy your rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Reach out anytime. Peace out.